Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to another For the Love of Art webinar. I do hope you are fine and safe. I am Julia Betancor, co-founder, talking from my home-based studio in Spain, an art conservator and collection care. I do thank you for being here with us today. So, why we are here talking for you? Well, all of us want to do our best to work dealing with this pandemic COVID-19, supporting the art industry and people around the museums, heritage, and collection logistics. I do really recommend you subscribe to our to be updated with our next webinars. So please take a look into our website and view how interesting new tips, new regulations, healthy protocols, and more information you can enjoy based in our daily experience. And who we are. Our experts include different professionals like registrars, conservators, insurance brokers, and fine art shippings. Just remind you that this platform is a non-profit and non-affiliate group. So all experts you will see here are creating this content totally for free. We are focused searching alternatives to continue with the artwork development as an important tool for recovery in our lives. Our goal is to share our insights with you. So without further delay, I move on to Antonio Adari, General Manager at Arteria from his base, Italy. I wish you find a fabulous information today. Antonio?
Thank you, Julia, and hello, everybody. As Julia has already well explained, For the Love of Art is a platform created by independent professionals in the fine arts sector. We include registrars, restorers, transporters, art handlers. And this platform was created at the beginning of the COVID pandemic to share information, discuss problems, find solution in our professional activities. And this is what we are trying to do even today with our webinar. Today's webinar is our third webinar, and this is dedicated to art logistics sector with a review of the current state of the sector. We are living in a very important moment because today, unlike in the past months, operational activity is resuming slowly, very slowly, but it's resuming, it's starting again. Museums are open and there are exhibitions that will open in the next weeks. However, the spread of the virus has not stopped, and today we have a very hard duty and responsibility to find a solution to ensure that we can be operational as in the past, but with the same quality and safety for the artworks. But at the same time, we must guarantee the maximum safety of our staff and also of all other professionals we interact with, curators, conservators, restorers, because our activity, as you know, is putting us together and in contact with many other professionals in our business. We are not only working from our offices, so we go to museums, we go to other places, we go to other countries. I think it's clear and obvious that our sector has been hit by the pandemic, not only because of the reduction in business that was very, very strong in the past months because of the shutdown of museums and exhibition, but also because this is important to understand, because the organization of many services has changed and we must adapt our activities to new safety protocols. There are many points and many areas that we need to focus and we need to discuss and we need to find new solutions. How to manage the couriers, interaction of our workers with other workers in the exhibition venues, sanitation of the crates and trucks, airport operation, supervision, reduction of flights. So we will try to discuss as much as we can and most of these topics today and possibly in other webinar in the future. But before, and today we will have Meg, Luciano, Paul, Deidre, and Jessica, and many other professionals, that will help us to understand what is happening in this in our sector. But before starting the discussion of these topics, I would like to dedicate a couple of more minutes to the safety of our workers, and therefore the safety of the whole sector, all the professionals involved in setting up or dismantling an art exhibition. Because maintaining high levels of control and compliance with the security protocols is a commitment that many art logistic companies are making today, a commitment that carries an enormous burden. However, while it is important to be aware that this is the only way to follow altogether, we have to follow this way together if we want to get out of this nightmare as soon as possible. It is also important that this commitment is recognized and supported by the institution, by museum, by private exhibition organizers. I think that is very important and necessary, a careful evaluation and the real control of the safety standards adopted by each company. And also that efforts are somehow recognized and rewarded. We cannot bear that burden alone. And I think that what we do it for the whole community and for all our lives. At the end, I want just to say and add that we must stop the spread of this virus, but we can only do it together with awareness, attention, and respect of the security protocols. This is very, very important. Thank you. I leave to John to introduce other questions.
Hi, everyone. So I'm John Robinette. I'm an independent collections manager here in New York, and I'll moderate our question and response section for today. So as you can tell from the introductions, the idea here is to discuss worker safety as we coexist as we continue to work with alongside the virus. So with that in mind, our first question is going to go to Meg Colbert today, and to talk about what exactly are we doing to keep our workers safe. So Meg is the co-founder of the Art Services Workers Safety Coalition, and they put together some very successful guidelines for our workers to adhere to and for businesses to employ in order to keep everybody safe. So Meg, can you lead us off?
Yeah, thanks, John. So basically, when the pandemic first shut down New York and the East Coast in the US, a group of people got together. I was among them, Derek Jones from Atelier, which is a creating company out of Philly. And we started talking about coming to a consensus on how we as companies and as an industry would approach safety measures during COVID-19, with the understanding that especially for vendors in this situation or people who are in a for-profit role in the industry would need assurances that they wouldn't be working at a deficit or at a disadvantage by applying safety protocols for their staff to address issues with COVID-19. And so out of that grew a collaboration, which is the Art Services Workers Safety Coalition, where as a group we meet, now we're meeting once a month to talk about creating resources that everybody in the industry can use. Museums, galleries, for-profit companies like art shippers, art creators, installation crews, etc., riggers, people that would be involved sort of in all parts of the process in the arts industry, so that everybody would be coming to the table, as it were, with the same expectations for safety. And so far this has been successful, and the result has been that a lot of people across the board, whether they're using the resources whole cloth or whether they're using part of the resources that we've provided on our website, have implemented a lot of the very basic safety protocols. And so at the beginning of this, our goal was not to create a complete safety package, but rather to create resources that would ensure minimum standards being set, so that when a person came to a job at a museum or at an auction house or at a private residence, they could be sure that everybody would have the same minimum standards. And then those institutions or companies or private individuals who wanted to go above those standards could always add into that. And so the resources that we've provided on the website are, to begin with, some universal guidelines. And these describe personal protective gear that people would wear, like masks, gloves, the use of hand sanitizer, having hand washing stations, emphasizing social distancing and safe work practices. And then moving from there, we created what we called the in-person safety agreement, which was an agreement that could be sent between parties so that everybody would acknowledge that they were going to follow these basic safety standards. So the idea being that if you have a company that's going to go pack at a museum, either both ways, they would send a document that says, if you're going to work here, you have to promise to wear a mask, you have to promise to practice social distancing, et cetera. And that's actually been really successful. And then also on the website, we've provided a PPE chart, which is basically a description of what kind of safety equipment you would wear. And I guess safety equipment is a little maybe misleading, but masks, gloves, et cetera. When do you wear those things and who wears them? And so it tries to break down by role how people would wear this. So a person on a truck might wear different protective gear than somebody working in a wood shop, depending on how close they're going to be with somebody, what kind of situations they're going to be in. And so it tries to outline those different scenarios and provide a guideline for how and when people should be wearing this protective equipment or gear. And so then continuing that, we are hoping to continue to provide resources as the situation develops and we see what the needs are. And so the last document that we created was a response plan with the idea of like, great, we've prepared our workplaces so that people are practicing social distancing and they're wearing masks and gloves when appropriate. Now what? Now somebody has gotten sick. What do you do? And this really was kind of an urgent request that we got from one of our members, because as in the US, as people reopened, the danger that somebody would test positive for COVID-19 and then come into the workplace became a real place of concern for everybody. And having a blueprint on how to react to that, we felt was really essential. And so we came up with a document that sort of outlines stages of infection. And so they go from somebody has a cough, but they haven't been around anybody who has COVID-19 and they aren't otherwise showing any symptoms. That's a stage, that's stage 0. But then you have somebody whose partner at home has COVID-19. And so they've been in direct contact with somebody who is known to have been infected with COVID-19. That's a different stage. And there's a response plan for each of those scenarios. And the idea being that this, again, is a minimum approach to how a company or an institution would deal with an infection in the workplace. With the idea mostly that by everybody coming together and agreeing to these basic responses, it doesn't put a company at a disadvantage or an institution. And this is really more for profit companies, but it could also be said for institutions. It doesn't put somebody at a disadvantage for doing the minimum safety, knowing that everybody around them is also going to be participating with the same approach to a situation where somebody has been infected in the workplace. And so I guess just to sort of finish it out, we really are hoping that we can grow the number of people that are involved in the organization, because we feel that even with a vaccine coming on in the future, there's still going to be a need for us to reach a consensus as an industry and as a community that we're all going to provide our workers with minimum safety expectations, and that we're all going to work together to create safe workplaces wherever those workplaces might be, and that we're not going to undercut each other by avoiding some of the expenses that are attendant to practicing these safety measures. And we have to acknowledge that it is going to be more expensive to work, and it's going to take longer to do a lot of the tasks that we all do, but we have to commit to those expenses and to those changes in timelines so that we can ensure that as a community and as an industry, we're protecting each other. And so to close out, I'd just like to encourage anybody who's interested. Our monthly meetings are open to everybody, and we really encourage participation. So please join. There's links on our website, which is artservicesworkersafetycoalition.com. So anybody who wants to can RSVP for the meetings and join in and bring up any agenda topics that they feel are important and that they would like addressed.
Thanks so much, Meg. I posted the link to the website in the chat for YouTube so everybody can access it there. Would you say there are some critical points that are in your guidelines? And after you answer this, I'm going to ask, open it up to the rest of the panel about any guidelines that they feel are important. So Meg, what are the most basic guidelines that you outline in your document?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most basic guidelines are that all people who are working together in an environment, whether they are from the same company or the same institution, or whether they are from two different places, that they will agree to wear masks and practice social distancing, and then wear any other PPE that is appropriate for the situation. I think that's essentially the most important focus of our group, is just people recognizing that they all have to abide by the same rules. And in that, also understanding that there's really no place to take risks in this situation. So honesty and transparency in these scenarios is important. So if somebody has tested positive in a workplace, the appropriate measure is to not send them to work, and obviously send them home, have them get medical care, but to practice a level of transparency that focuses on not spreading this virus in the industry, and taking all measures to prevent situations where it would be easy to spread the virus.
Does anyone from our panel have any other additions for these criteria and guidelines that they're following for their employees or as they work? Anyone want to share?
I would like to start from this point that Meg said. So this is very, very important, that we have to do our best not to spread the virus. And that means that one of the first rules that we have in our company is that we stop working. We ask our workers to stop working, even if there is been someone that they met that was positive, or if they know that possibly they've been infected. Even if you don't know, this virus is very difficult to understand. You never know if you have to wait 10, 14 days before you know. And in that meanwhile, I mean, if you keep working, you just spread all around, and then it's too late to stop the spread of the virus in your company. So what we do now is just to stop them immediately, even if it's only one small possibility that they are infected. And that means that, you know, this is not covered by the health national system. So that is quite a cost, because if you are talking about office staff, they can still probably work from home and wait to see what happens. But our technicians, drivers, etc., they are just have to stop working for 10 days and 14 days. And I think this is one of the most difficult situations to cope with, but at the same time is one of the first rules to follow.
I believe we actually have some people with experience with having employees diagnosed. Is that correct? Can anyone share how they managed the situation? Yeah.
Yes, John. This is Luciano Froho from Mobile Transport Switzerland. Yeah, we had a bad example. Like other companies, we have strict health and safety regulations inside our premises regarding our offices, warehouses, carpenter shops, etc. And at the moment, it's not a problem either because we are working half of the staff, so we can keep easily the distance. And within the working environments at the moment in our company, it's not a problem. But unfortunately, we had one positive corona case incident. So far, it happened at the TEFAF, Maastricht Art Fair, back in March. During the middle of the show, we had to react immediately within 24 hours on behalf of our clients because one of the exhibitor was tested positive. So we had to send a dozen of people and a couple of trucks for the deinstall in Maastricht during the fair. Everything went smoothly, and during this time, we thought everything was really working very well. Upon the return of our drivers and office staff, unfortunately, one of our colleagues in the office, he was somehow feeling weak and he had fever. So I sent him immediately to a test, which is rather easy in Switzerland. He was tested positive, and within 24 hours, or let's say 48 hours for the drivers, we sent everybody home for at least 10 days. But before, they all had to get tested. Everybody. We closed down the canteen, we closed down the carpenter shops. Fortunately, our people in Zurich, they could continue with the labors we still had to do. But in the end, everything worked out well. But honestly, the extra charges, for instance, certainly nobody could cover. We could not bill them. But overall, more important was the health and safety of our staff, which was fine in the end.
And that was early in the whole outbreak, so that's great that you were able to manage that since then. In other parts of the world, Shige in Japan, are there any other protocols that are different?
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm Shige from Yamato Global Logistics Japan in Tokyo. What we do here is we have about 250 staff, and now from around March, we made a system in the company. Actually, our group is included in a big, huge door-to-door delivery domestic company, which has about 220,000 staff. And actually, our name Yamato is quite common, like a post office in Japan, and everybody knows our uniform, so we can't make any mistakes. Through all the group staff, we're now putting a system, and everybody has to put a system through their phone or a personal computer, whether until every day 9 o'clock, that whether you have a body temperature over than 37 degrees, and if you feel bad, or if you have any problem with your family, everybody has to report until 9 o'clock through the system. And if a manager finds someone who has a problem, then they have to contact with the staff immediately, where they can come to stop them to come to company. And that's the first system. And surely if somebody comes to the company, we have to take the temperature. Temperature is the basic checking system for us. And if now the government says don't go to work if you have a 37 point, if you have over than 37.5 Celsius. But in our company, we are told to report if you have over 37 degrees, actually, a little bit stricter. Yeah.
So
yeah.
with these guidelines sort of in mind, I mean, I would like to hear it from everybody, but we just don't have time. So I'm going to talk about a very the guidelines regarding couriers, because the courier situation has been one that has been discussed quite a bit since lockdown. And so I wanted to see what people are doing with their courier situation. And first, I'm going to direct the question to Paul Williamson from Constantine.
Hello there. Thank you, John. As John said, I'm Paul Williamson from Constantine. The UK is slowly opening up. So we're starting to see a lot more requests for couriers on board our trucks. We have a strict protocol with asking couriers, such as have they been, I guess what Meg was touching on before, if people have been in contact with people, if they've got any temperatures, etc., to fill out a form in advance. And then obviously we receive the form back, make sure it's okay. Now we have in our trucks, we have perspex fitted in between the where the drivers will sit and the seats in the back for couriers. So it's a bit unusual for some European companies have the sort of seats all in a row, but we have separate seating behind. So we can put the perspex dividing the drivers from the couriers. Sometimes the couriers are happy with this because they can't hear us speak. Anyway, so that does work well. So far, the couriers are happy with it. They're comfortable. We carry the normal PPE, sort of hand sanitizer, face masks, but part of our rules is that the couriers have to wear their own face masks, so to comply with their protocols. So I think it's been working very well. The feedback has been very good. And we have about 6 vehicles with these perspex screens, and now we're slowly rolling them out to more trucks. And the couriers feedback has been that we have to make, I guess, a few extra stops if we go into Europe. So we use this mostly for UK and throughout Europe. So we have to sometimes make a few extra stops just for comfort breaks, etc. But on the whole, it's been very well received, and it works well. I know some other companies within Europe, although we won't be Europe come January, but people attached to us so far, some companies do and some companies don't. This is down to their regulations in their particular country within Europe and or the company regulations. So it's best to check with your local agent in whichever country you're in. But that's just a brief overview of a situation with us, just to say that it's all working well and the couriers are feeding back. I mean, I guess they were, not reluctant, but apprehensive. I would use the word apprehensive to start with. But once they've been on it a few times, and also we've had similar situations where in the UK, some couriers are following behind in their own cars, which is a bit unusual. We haven't had that before. So they're just following. They don't wish to go on the truck for some reason. So they're following behind in their own cars. Also, we've had more requests for follow cars as well, over and above. So we just have maybe one driver in the follow car. So then the courier can sit next to the driver, and then you don't have to have the partition up. So the rules are in the UK anyway, that if you're sitting forward facing next to each other, then that's fine. It's just when you obviously sit behind each other, you need partitions, basically. So
Is anyone else? Sorry, was there something else?
No, go on now.
I was going to ask if anyone else has any different protocols than what Paul described, whether it's acrylic or perspex between driver and courier or follow cars.
We do have only follow cars for our company. We don't. The couriers are not allowed to be in the truck anymore just with the follow cars.
Okay, we will talk a little bit about the so-called virtual courier a little bit later. But I do want to clarify one thing. We had a question from someone about the term face mask or face covering. Does everyone ensure that their drivers are using N95 masks, or is it something where do you provide them, or do you just require the drivers to bring their own, or your staff?
We provide them, and they have to use.
Yeah,
we do as well.
Yeah, we provide the mask, but it's just on for the couriers. Then it's so we do a risk assessment, and when the couriers come, and it's a briefing, we ask questions, but we provide our own staff with the appropriate PPE, including masks. But we just ask the couriers, they wear their own masks. They bring their own masks. But everyone who works for us, and I guess all the other companies here, will provide their own PPE, including masks.
Well, if there's no other comments from that, I do want to keep moving here. The next interesting phenomena that we've all experienced is working from home, and for many of us, it's a change. But obviously, for our shipping companies, we can't all work from home. But for some people, we might actually see a difference in how we work. And to talk about that, Deirdre O'Connell from Deedle is going to talk about the reality of working from home, and if that's going to be permanent, and what clients can expect from their shipping agent.
Hi, thank you, John. I've prepared some notes on really our experience as a company. For anyone who doesn't know us, we're purely logistics company working with all the colleagues that are part of this forum. So we're aware of the safety regulations and abiding by them. We are part of the Art Workers Safety Coalition also. That said, the switch to working from home was very abrupt. On a Thursday, we were trying to plan alternating teams to work every other week. By Friday, we were basically getting ready to pack all our essentials into a box and head home to start working 100% from home on the Monday morning. And that was really very abrupt and could barely even be considered to be a transition. Because of the assumption that most people made at the start that this was not going to continue for the length of time that it has, we didn't really make any major adjustments or create any particularly new strategy at the start. People were just getting on with their projects. For the most part, a lot of our work on the logistics side, in a sense, is already being done remotely. We're not, we're not involved or located at a warehouse. We do have some contact on occasion at the airports, on site visits, but the vast majority of our work is all done using technology, telephones, email, et cetera. So at the start, it was I call it kind of business kind of as usual, with a lot of rescheduling and postponing, and a lot of work just involving just adjusting projects that were already on the go. The thing that we really were missing, I work with a team of 8 people, and our communication in the office is very immediate, and that was a really difficult thing to adjust to. We started using Microsoft Teams, which is kind of very quick and lends itself to short and formal exchanges, which are not as laborious as emails and can involve the entire group. And like everyone, we use Zoom for internal meetings as well as for external meetings. So It's not a substitute for in-person, but it's become a great tool. In general, the flow of information with the outside world is much slower. There are many more details to check, options to research. And in this group, we've already discussed how the constantly changing landscape makes it really difficult to update information for each other, for our clients, for museums, and for other agents. And things need to be checked on a daily basis. That's pretty laborious. Something that I have seen, and I think everyone sees it in the world, is that our remote workplaces are not just newly connected to every part of our work, they're always connected. And as lockdown continued and business diminished, our staff was somewhat reduced and people felt very busy with maybe less satisfaction in what they were achieving. And I think it is, in spite of being used to working just really with technology, the boundary between work and home becomes quite blurred, and the feeling of being it can be quite overwhelming. And so I have had people who've needed help with that, with organizing their day, with maybe taking time off. I encourage people to take a day off, turn on the out of office and not to check their mail. I try and check in with people as much as I can and find out what's going on behind the jobs that they have going on. Because obviously all the precautions that the different companies are taking, we're abiding by those too. We're having to checking availability, creating timelines are all much more involved. It's not easy to give ready answers to how long things might take for packing, for even for crating, and also at the airport.
Would you say that it's difficult? It takes longer to get information from your associated vendors as a result?
With the vendor, yes, I think so, because maybe because of the scheduling issues on their side. Maybe Meg might speak to that. I think also some of our vendors are not yet back to full staff, so it's they're really very, very busy right now, but with reduced staff. It's really hard getting information from the airlines. And also actually sometimes from truckers for long distance trucking. I'd say that is true.
So it's not an issue of working from home that's slowing things down. It's just the nature of the industry and the difficulties that all parties involved are facing at the moment that slows down the flow of information. Is that correct?
I think for the most part that's true. I think sometimes that people feel they feel a little isolated. The thing that I feel is really missing is the sort of informal, incidental communication in the office that just evolve out of casual questions. And that kind of communication is really very organic, and just the amount that people learn from that is huge. And I think over time that's really not a good thing.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a different experience? Maybe Elizabeth, since tell us what's your working from home protocol like?
Hello everyone, I'm Elizabeth from Møbel Transport Denmark. Well, the situation in Denmark is actually that we're pretty much going back to the offices and working. And of course, all the drivers are back now. we have people in the office who have asked to work from home because they are worried about getting sick if they're in the risk group. And we've made guidelines for rules for working from home to accommodate that, to make people feel safe and be safe, of course, and respect that. It's individual from company to company. There are a spike in the and it just came up here in the news a few days ago that in Copenhagen, it's getting the numbers are getting up again. So some of the bigger public institution is recommending that if you can work from home, you should work from home. But all like conservators, technicians, drivers who cannot work from home are working, but using the safety protocol and guidelines that's put in place. So we pretty much make it up to like individual talk what in the office. And then for those who are in the office, we have the basic guidelines with distance, often cleaning, and trying to just minimize any type of contact. Also, if we have a storage, so if there are coming other trucks and visitors, just have the protocol and be prepared about what to expect. So we send out our guidelines that we expect people to have their own face masks, like we already talked about, but also keeping the distance. And when they're there, for instance, unloading and then step away, not any really close contact with any of our staff. And of course, the other way around. Yeah.
I want to get the other extreme of the situation. I want to talk to Monica from Peru. Can you tell us what's going on there? Because the situation is far less stable than it is in Denmark.
Hello, good morning. Yes, here in Peru and in all South America, we are still living our first wave of the COVID-19, no? Unfortunately, Peru is the country with most deaths in all the world. So our situation is really complicated here, no? Although this, we also have some government regulations, like we are still in curfew, and we are unable to work or circulate on Sundays. And we have to adapt this situation to our usual work because we can't stop, and the economy of the country can't stop, no? Museums are still closed, but we have projects for another countries that are lending some Peruvian objects from Peru. So we need to go to museums, to have protocols, and to continue working from home, because it is not possible to start working from our offices completely, no? 2 years ago, we established our office system for all office. So it was very helpful for us because when our quarantine started on March, we could work from home without any problem. And when we started working with our operation department in mid-April, the most difficult part was to teach the packers how to use the office system, so we at our homes could be able to be with them through all their operations in a daily basis, no? And actually, it is interesting because all of them have already learned how to use the digital system we use with the cell phones. They are always giving us all the information in real time. And this has been really helpful for us, no? Because we can continue work daily and give all the services. Also, as most of told, it is very important to have all security elements with us, no? In office, we have only one person permanently here in our warehouse. And then the people that really does not want to come here and work from the office, they continue make home office. This is perhaps we have some friends with that has previous sickness like diabetes or high pressure, and they are considered people with risk if they get COVID, no? So we take a lot of care of these persons, and they continue totally apart, working totally apart from our warehouse and our offices, no? And then only one person assists one day, and we are changing the persons each day, no? And the other days are our work is made by from home.
Thanks so much. The next topic I think we should discuss that you sort of lead into is the day-to-day practicalities and the logistics of our operations. And I'm going to ask Tina Sullivan to speak to that, and also because the day-to-day for many people is the shipping of objects, and I wanted to talk about the tracking system that they're using, because she's not the only one using it as well.
Right. Well, I think one of our biggest problems that we're facing right now is understanding expectations, especially for shipments that would normally be couriered, because people are really uncomfortable letting their pieces go without a courier. That's the way we've been doing it forever. So at the beginning of the whole COVID issue, and knowing that couriers couldn't travel, we've been trying to figure out some ways to alleviate some of these concerns, because artwork did need to return. And so some of the things that we were looking at were, the whole idea of virtual courier and being a little bit more present at the airport and documenting more, photo documenting, video documenting when we're able. But the one kind of interesting thing were the tracking devices. And we did a lot of research with different tracking devices to see if this would be something that some of our museums would be interested in, to give a little bit more visibility to their shipment. And it's really kind of taken off. It's they can monitor temperature and humidity and shock and location. And I think there's been a lot of people, they're kind of curious about them, but once they start using them, I mean, last week, I think on a Friday, I got an order for 60 of them that someone needed the very next week. And Indemnity now is approving these as one of the alternative methods to a courier. They have a lot of, I'm not sure of all of the steps you need to do, but follow cars and tracking devices were some of the things that we've been told are getting around having couriers. So I think just understanding the expectations of the lender and the borrower and what they want are some of the things that we've been just, kind of struggling with a little bit, because we'll have people wanting a tracker and a shipment, but the lender doesn't want to pay for it. And there's a lot of confusion right now, but it's starting to, I feel like it's starting to kind of work out. Another one of the challenges we've been having is, especially in California, all our museums are closed, and there's a lot of uncertainty over what's happening with the exhibitions and when they're going to be going out, and when, if they're extending them. And so I don't know. I'm just feeling like our the shipping side of it, it's kind of the day-to-day shipping is kind of okay. It's kind of normalized. But it's just what happens without a courier. And I guess I don't really have much more to say.
Right. There's some talk about, the U.S. indemnity, which is, of course, on everyone's mind because it has been so strict and has been so unwavering. So it's good to hear that they're having some leeway with these trackers. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they are issuing some exceptions for some shipments. Is that true?
That's what we've been told. We had a very large exhibition that was dispersing out of the Midwest, and we shipped a bunch of couriers for the trucks, and they required a tracker in every single crate and a follow car, and there were no couriers on those shipments as far as I understand. So I think they're bending a little bit, and I don't think it's a permanent thing, but they seem to understand that something, things have to go back, and they're going to have to be a little bit more amenable to getting outside their normal requirements.
Does anyone else on the panel have experience using the tracking devices? No. What about indemnity in various countries? Are there similar requirements?
Sorry, John. Sorry, I was muted, so I couldn't answer.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We are using them. We have been using even before the COVID, since last year. So we are trying to also see that now they're accepted by the Italian Museum quite easily, and they are very similar. Checking in real time the location, humidity, shocks, etc., and with the full report. It is quite easy to use and give, with the possibility also to give a link to the museum so that they can do it directly. And so yeah, it's something that is starting and spreading now.
And which brand are you using, Antonio?
It's an English brand called HANA, and we are working with them, and you can see one good thing from this device that has been already approved by most of the airlines, or the one we work with. On the other hand, is light but not so small, but it gives all the sensor and all the possibility to control what we need: light, humidity, relative humidity, temperature, shocks, tilt, and position.
And Tina, Masterpiece is using Tive, right?
We're using Tive, and we also have, there's a couple devices we're also looking into. One thing that I found that was a really interesting development from using the trackers, and it's something that we could have used a lot in the past, is when you have like a shipment that arrives, let's say in Los Angeles, and it's going to Phoenix, and it gets in kind of late, and the crew is waiting for it, and they have to, sit around like, where's the truck? Where's the truck? Is it on time? They can just track it themselves. And it's like, oh, I see where it is. I'll go into the museum, rather than going in too early and sitting there, or worry about calling you at 10 o'clock at night saying, is the truck going to get here on time? Yeah, but we right now we're using Tive. We find their product, the battery life is one of the big concerns with some of the other devices that we've looked at. And the Tive battery lasts a very, very long time. And they also offer a disposable device. We call it a disposable device, but it's, it can go one way and it doesn't need to return. So, that saves a lot, because they're, shipping to Europe by FedEx is, can be $50, $60 just to return the tracker. So, yeah.
I want to ask, sorry, someone else?
No, I was just going to say quickly, the same here. We've been using before COVID, but we found we've been using more of the sort of bookend couriers, or filming more. So filming via WhatsApp and things like that to couriers. We've done a couple in Japan and other places in Europe where we film things sort of virtually. And on what Tina says, the tracking, all the tracks, and most of the trucks in Europe as well, tracked anyway, satellite tracks, so you can see where your trucks are. But just one example, we have something coming up with a museum in America to a shipment in the Middle East where they can't send any couriers. So we're going to have to live stream. We're going to have to de-install the exhibitions ourselves and live stream it back to the museum. So that's a first for us as well. So they're entrusting us to be their registrars, basically.
Can we all watch the live stream?
You can do. I'll do my hair especially. No, but it's something different. With like everything with this awful pandemic, we're all learning different things, and we have to adjust all different ways. And as Meg said there at the beginning, it's a partnership, isn't it? We all have to work together from both sides, from the museums, the agents, and we have to adjust. And that's the only way forward. That's all we can do.
I want to hear
We're
from,
lucky. I was going to say we're lucky in LA. I don't know about everywhere else, but we can get our local museum couriers into the warehouses so they can watch the palletization. So at least they have that added level of comfort that they can still perform that part of the job.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hear from Sweden and France and also from Ben about also some other day-to-day changes in your protocols or your ways of working that you're experiencing now.
Well, hello. So I'm Sylvie Michel from LP Art in Paris. There are day-to-day changes, but to stay on the topic we were discussing, it's more due to the changes between countries, between quarantines, between drivers who can go one day who do not have exemptions and can't go to Germany if they do not do the test 2 days before going to Germany. But in France right now, we have thousands and thousands of people doing tests, so we can't have the result before at least five days. So the day-to-day organization right now is one day you can send your truck to Germany, the day after you can't, so you have to find a solution like changes of truck in Strasbourg or having a German truck coming instead of ours. And for some countries, we have exemptions, so we can cross, for example, Belgium, Netherlands, or the drivers can go to UK without quarantine, but all those rules are changing every day. So we've got to adapt ourselves with all those changes. That's the worst.
Hello, my name is Jessica, and am I?
Yeah, you're working.
You're hearing me?
You.
Yeah.
We see you.
I'm from MTAB in Sweden, and just some update from here. We're based in all 4 countries in Scandinavia, and our struggle in the beginning was a bit that each country had different restrictions. And for example, in Sweden, we did not have quarantine at all throughout the whole time. We of course we had to reduce staff quite a lot as well as everywhere. So and maybe we had like 50% people working, and the ones who had to take the tube could stay at home and work from home. The ones who were close to work, we could bike here, we could come to the office, and that was as well a way to be close to our technicians and packers and or drivers who actually had to be on site, because they were, as I said, we never closed down. So even though business dropped dramatically in the beginning, after 2 or 3 weeks it caught up and we had local things around Scandinavia. But we could, for example, not send Finnish drivers to Sweden because then they were put in quarantine, but vice versa was fine. Considering we're talking about shipments, we noticed most Scandinavian couriers in general go with air shipments only. They don't, especially here in Sweden, they don't want to drive or go on the trucks. That's always been the case. But now, of course, nobody wants to go on the air shipments either. So we really noticed they kind of requested road transports for most shipments within Europe, which of course means that it's more costly. So that was an issue. We've always tried and consolidate, if possible, to reduce costs. But that means that you have to have a lot of transports. And when things were a bit slower in March, April, we could of course not do that. But yeah.
Ben, do you have anything else that you might want to add in that maybe we haven't discussed? Oh, I can't hear you. It's all right.
Is it quite difficult?
There you go.
Okay, right. I work with Elizabeth at Mobile Denmark. I was going to say, from an internal perspective, business to business communication, I think, really struggled under COVID. We are in a social environment. Everyone knows each other on this webinar, and there's an enormous network of agents and shippers around the world. And the way that we grow and the way that we thrive is that we go and talk to each other and we meet each other. And that's really been lacking in the last 3 or 4 months, and that's something that's really suffered. So I'm very much looking forward to going out and meeting, not necessarily into other agents, but other galleries and museums and things like that. That's the way our business needs to move forward. So whilst Zoom is effective, and we're able to have this wonderful meeting here, I'm very much looking forward to being able to go out and interact with people, because we've had so many meetings cancelled. So yeah, just looking forward to physical contact again.
I completely understand that. I think we're all suffering from that for a moment. We're at the 1 hour mark. I want to make sure that everyone who is listening along, all 113 of you, can have the opportunity to ask any questions. So please write them in the YouTube live chat. Otherwise, we're going to conclude. Does anyone have any other final thoughts? In a way, I have a million thoughts that I want to ask, but I want to make sure that everyone else can contribute. Oh, one question that did come up, I'm going to ask Paul this in the chat, was what platform you're using to do your live stream deinstallations?
Not just WhatsApp at the moment, but we are looking into other ways of doing it. But WhatsApp seems to work cover most countries, and it seems, yeah, we use that. It's fine.
Yeah. WhatsApp, I think, is popular. It's encrypted.
It's encrypted, but also a Courtauld did a recent return from Japan, and they had 10 or 15 shipments coming back to the UK. And they used WhatsApp and also just phone. And I thought it was some fancy camera, but they just said they used mobile phones and it worked. So that's what we're planning to use when we have to do it. And apparently we've done it a few times on WhatsApp and it's fine.
Can I ask Meg something not related to Art Services Workers Safety Coalition regarding the tracking devices? Something I've always wondered was why has that not been something that creating companies have offered in the past? Meg is the director of production at Box Art in New York, so hopefully she can respond to this.
Well, I mean, I think the simple thing is that generally it's not something that people normally request, but we have absolutely used them on shipments before. Usually they're sensors, so they'll be shock sensors or humidity and temperature sensors. So they're not necessarily providing all of the services that these virtual courier technologies are offering. But there are definitely occasions when they're used, usually for very fragile, high value objects. They'll want that extra protection. But because of the use of couriers, in addition to those kind of technologies, a lot of people feel that they're redundant unless you're dealing with an object that is so fragile that it being exposed to a fluctuation in humidity or temperature or even minor shock would be something that a conservator would need to address almost immediately. It hasn't been a terribly popular option, but perhaps now that people are more aware of these types of devices, they will be requested more on crates.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who is not a shipper and who is a more on the client side of things, I mean, to me, it seems obvious that these coexist with the courier because it's completely different information. The courier speaks to the forklift driver, not the tracker. So that was always something that I wondered about.
Can I add?
Yeah,
add
please.
Something?
Please.
Because I remember that we started many years ago, something like that, even to track the trucks when it was still not happening so often. And I think there was at the beginning a kind of reluctancy from the museum to use new technologies. I do remember quite well many museums not happy about that because they were worried, that this information somewhere in the cloud could be accessed by other people. So they, at the beginning, I remember I found not in open acceptance of this new technology. Now, as Meg said, is different. They are very well protected, so the access is safe, and obviously are always used very precautions. I mean, no one is saying what is traveling on the truck, etc. It's just numbers or codes that to follow. So this is something that everyone should know. But I think that now also museums are open to these new technologies, and maybe because it's a need, or I don't know, but it is changing quickly.
I think it's a good place to wrap things up, unless anyone else has any other topics they want to discuss. Meg, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing, just an additional thing that the Art Services Worker Safety Coalition has been recommending for people that do have to work in their workplaces. They have to work on site and they can't work remotely. We highly suggest that companies basically separate people in their workplace out in groups and keep them separated, so that if somebody were to be infected with the COVID-19 virus, they would basically be in an isolated pod, and you wouldn't have a situation where they had been interacting with everybody in the workplace. And so that's just something that I wanted to point out as an additional safeguard if you do have staff that has to work on site and doesn't have the ability to work from home, like packers, truckers, and technicians. So keeping them in assigned groups that don't intermingle with the other parts of your operation.
Yep, that's an important point. I assume most everybody is doing that at this point, right? If they have people working in person.
Yeah, we do. And also, I mean, it also start time. So if you would normally start with your trucks at 6 or 7, now we start them different times, so they can't mix in the warehouses and pods. And as Meg said, just keeping people separate. But, you know, you try and do it as much as possible, but sometimes they will cross, but you just try and mitigate that. And I mean, just from working with clients as well, they seem to be very happy with the questions we ask and the protocols put in on both sides, and what we expect of them and what they expect of us. It works very well. I mean, it quickly settled into a routine. So all the museums, the people we work with send us their protocols and vice versa. And it works well. It's just getting used to wearing the PPE, which, you know, if you're wearing it all day, things do take longer. That's all I would say.
Yeah. So with that, I think we should wrap this up. Thanks everyone for listening. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you get notifications whenever we go live. There was some interest in hearing about insurance. That is something we do plan to discuss. There have been some webinars around that have talked about it earlier, but of course this, like the shipping, is always changing. So you know, stay in contact with us to find out more about that, and subscribe to the email list so you can get notifications from For the Love of Art whenever a blog post goes up. So most of the panelists here are posting regularly about changes in that are occurring for protocols and laws in each country. So please stay in touch with us on the fortheloveofart.info. Is that correct? So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much, everybody.